Next speaker is my former Lib Dem parliamentary colleague, Mark Williams. Mark, I understand, had a bit of a nasty accident on the way here today, but like the trooper he is, he's going to carry on. Thank you. Mark.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman Steve, for those kind words. I have to say, as a former British politician who's been involved in this campaign for the last 18 years, I do need, as others have said, to pay tribute to Sir David Amess, who did so much for this cause. Many of you would have met him over the many years in which he attended these gatherings. He is a great loss. David had a unique capacity, as indeed did Robin Corbett before, of bringing people together of different political persuasions: Liberals, Socialists, Social Democrats, Conservatives, Greens. I suspect there's a range of political opinions in this room tonight. They had the capacity to bring people together in the way that we've been brought together for that most noblest of cause, the cause for democracy and freedom. Now, I was billed to be the 43rd speaker in these proceedings. I was going to reiterate, I suspect, many of the messages that we've heard so far. But that would have been a good job, because we do need to reiterate the messages. We do need to reinforce the messages, because people are watching these proceedings throughout the world. The world in which we live the world in which we all live is not a safe place to live when a regime is willing to do whatever it takes to maintain its power. This regime not only exports terrorism and fundamentalism abroad, but as we've heard, as we know, it also oppresses its own people with unimaginable brutality. And to the Iranian people who are able, within Iran, to listen to these proceedings, to them we offer you our solidarity. We see what you endure. We know how you suffer. And we support you. Ladies and gentlemen, I reflect on the aborted attempts to disrupt the proceedings when many of us were gathered here last in 2018. I've thought a bit in recent days over the Iranian attempts to destroy peaceable demonstrations in Paris tomorrow, though the French courts had something else to say about that. We reflect on the appalling attacks on Ashraf 3 in Albania this week. Indeed, the tentacles of the Iranian regime reach very deep. But most important of all, we need to have, as we meet this weekend, to have in the forefront of our minds the brave sacrifices, day in, day out, since September of last year, and indeed the thousands of sacrifices over the last 43 years, all in the cause of democracy. And our very presence here this weekend illustrates our determination. Politicians, former politicians, as global citizens, our determination to shine a light on one of the most reprehensible regimes in the world. And it is essential that we rally behind the NCRI. The revolution in Iran is inevitable because it is a heartfelt desire of the people of Iran for change, a movement driven by that most noblest of causes, democracy and freedom. And the regime must understand that the river of resistance will continue to flow until it reaches its destination. History has taught us that appeasement never stops dictators. What applied in the past applies today. The same applies to the dictators of Iran. The governments of Europe must not repeat the mistakes of the past and must stand united. Two final points require decisive action. As we've heard, I think, in almost every speech, the international community must prescribe the ERGC that body which exports terrorism and suppresses the people. We've seen the show up there, the 25 parliaments in Europe, the US House of Representatives, the UK House of Commons and House of Lords, France, Norway, Netherlands, the European Parliament, calling for precisely that. Those of us with long enough memories remember SAVAK. The IRGC are the new SAVAK. That was a tragedy of 1979, a deplorable regime replaced by something worse. And this tragedy has lasted 4 long decades. We must exert pressure through punitive measures, diplomatic isolation, and use the powers of the United Nations to their maximum degree. And finally, we must insist on the visitation of UN human rights experts to the regime's prisons, allowing them to meet detained protesters and political prisoners. And we know there are many more thousands of political prisoners languishing in Iranian prisons right now. Evin prison in Tehran, as despicable and inhumane now as it was in the autumn of 1978 and the spring of 1979. And we must urge the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants against the Supreme Leader and the so-called elected President responsible for those crimes against humanity. Their crimes, ladies and gentlemen, their crimes will never be forgotten. Last December, I'm a former Member of Parliament, so this was unusual. I received a message from the UK Foreign Office informing me that I had been placed on a sanctions list by the Iranian regime. I suspect many of you may be on that list as well. It means I'm denied a visa, I'm prohibited from entering Iran, and my Iranian assets, were I to have any, would be frozen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wear that as a badge of honour. It is, but it is a small indication that the regime listen to what we say and listen to what we do. The message is getting home, and the message is a clear one, that the cause of democracy and freedom is unstoppable. The cause of securing basic human rights will never be abandoned. The cause of justice, bringing criminals to account, will not be compromised. In Wales, where I come from, there is a phrase, chwarae teg, means fair play, a fair deal, which is precisely what Mariam Rajavi and the 10-point plan offers. A fair deal to iron out injustice, promote real economy and human rights, freedom for Iran. Onwards, in Welsh again, ymlaen, forward to a new, democratic, secular, free Iran. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.